So we all know that there's different timings for gesture drawings, but sometimes it can be tricky to sort of figure out how do you manage the different times, especially if you're swapping between the times, like back to back to back. You're going from 30 seconds, going up to 1 minute, to 2 minutes, and then to 5 minutes. And how do you tackle each of the different time limits? So this is what I'm going to go over. I have gesture drawings from all the different time limits, and we can talk about how I decided to tackle it. So for a 30-second gesture drawing, so these are my 30-second gesture drawings, you want to essentially focus on the main mass of the body. And what is the main mass of the body? The main mass of the body is going to be the torso and then the legs over here. You want to focus on the main bend of the torso, the whole figure, and then how it leads into the legs, and then plant the legs onto the ground if the person is standing, so that you have strong, stable foundation. So for this case, right, you can see the details are very, very loose, but there's still a little bit of mass and form. I'm focusing a lot on the main bend, where you can see my line weight is really dark on this side, and then it goes out to the butt because we want to have this fluid shape of like this, fluid shapes. So we have this main bend going down to the butt, going down to the front of the thigh, back of the knee, all the way down to the leg. You find it really, really quickly. Same thing for this side. You have a bend over here, and then it goes all the way down, connecting the hip to the thigh, inside of the knee, down to the outside of the calf to the leg. And then for this leg, it's just a super simple gesture line. If you for 30 seconds especially, since you have such a limited time, you want to try to capture as much as you can with as little lines as possible. And so this is where learning the different templates, like leg templates and stuff, I have videos on those. That's really, really important because it's just a super easy way for you to quickly just jot down and map the figure down. And then you can see how like I'm not really even finishing half of them. It's just capturing the feeling. But when you look at the whole thing, it does capture a little bit of motion, I would think. And then the other part is don't focus on the head too much, especially for 30 seconds. You would just put the head down as a circle somewhere near the end. A lot of these, it's like, oh, the time's like 2 seconds left. All right, cool, just put a head down. And that's all I needed. Now, this is a big caveat too. Your 30-second gesture drawings, if you're unfamiliar with gesture drawings, probably won't be as far as this. Sometimes you'll see people who are just starting out, they'll have gesture drawings where it's just like the line for the shoulder going down to the line for the pelvis, and then stick figure legs, stick figure hands, and that's what they can get done in 30 seconds. That is totally fine. Once you've done more and more gesture drawings, then 30 seconds feels like a long time. Speed comes with practice. Do not focus on speed early on. Like I said, I always preach, do not do timed gesture drawings when you're just learning how to draw. Do timed gesture drawings as a way of practicing, but you need to learn how to do gesture drawings first, and you don't do timed gesture drawings when you're learning how to draw gestures. Anyway, let's move on to 1 minute gesture drawings now. 1 minute gesture drawings is basically the same thing, right? You're just adding in a 30-second extra time, but you can see that there's a little bit more to them in terms of proportion and in terms of like consciously trying to figure out how the shape is designed. So in this case, this was my very first one going from 30 seconds to 1 minute, and you can see I'm trying to get used to the time shift, like, oh, I have double the amount of time now. Let me think about how I'm going to do it. In this case, I spent a lot more time trying to find the shape, and the shape that I was looking for was this torso shape, having a strong curve, the C torso, and then having both ends butt in like this. So I was looking for that shape, and then I was connecting that shape down to the legs. So in this case, you can connect the weight-bearing leg first by just going down like this, and then you can try to find the form because you have a little bit more time, and then going down from the front of the leg, front of the thigh, down to the front of the calf for a straight. But then once you start adding in the secondary shapes, you can start adding in more anatomical detail and all of that. You can still see the hands are very, very gestural, are just still stick figures. It's just trying to find the shoulder down to the tricep, down to the forearm. Very, very simple. But then the legs have a little bit more detail to them, trying to find the proportions a little bit better. This one kind of got out of hand. You can see the head is still an afterthought. Don't worry about the head. The head does not mean anything. It's the same idea. I think for this case, this is a little bit messy, but you have 1 minute, right? But in my case, I might have gone with a straight on this side. I might have designed it as a straight and then go like this, just so that it has a cleaner shape to it. But that's just something to keep in mind for later. And this is what I mean by not putting a time limit when you're learning. When you're learning how to draw, you have no time limit and you're just figuring out how to simplify and design when you're learning how to do gesture. In this case, I was trying to do, I think I should have done a front to front like this, and then having the detail on the inside for better design. And then for here, it's using the same principles of having the nice flowing shapes like this. Flowing shapes, trying to find the balance, making sure that the figure feels like it's on the ground. And you can see that I just sort of omitted the details in the legs, keeping things as a whole. This pose, I don't recommend doing poses like these. I recommend just doing standing poses with a nice bend to them, because once you get into here, then you have to start using different tactics like construction and then perspective, and trying to like find the foreshortening of everything and all of that, which isn't really that helpful in 1 minute. As we keep going on to 2 minute gesture drawings now. So for 2 minutes, this one here is my worst one because I was going from 1 minute to 2 minutes at this per specific moment. This is the first 2 minute drawing in this session. And you can see that I'm like trying to get a sense of how much time I have, because I was used to the speediness of 30 seconds and 1 minute. And now I'm like, okay, wait, there's more time. Let me like think about how I want to do this. As a result, it's a little bit bad. I don't really like this one at all. And then I started moving on and getting warmed up and getting used to the time. So for these ones, you can spend more time on construction and proportion. So in this case, I was building out the torso and trying to find the construction of it well. And then I measured out and found the legs. And I tried my best to keep the proportions intact. The head is a little bit more developed. The hands are more developed as well, trying to find better design shapes. So I decided to go a straight here and adding in curves on this side to help capture the anatomy and the gesture. Over here too, more complex poses. I won't talk about this because I don't recommend people doing poses like these when you're learning how to gesture, but it's still a fun pose and you can still see the general main kind of bends of the body. Poses like these are good. So this one is probably my favorite one out of all the 2 minutes. You can start adding in a little bit more anatomical detail. The head has a little bit more posing to it, a little bit more anatomy in place. You can see the iliac crest going down to the thigh, going down to the calf, down to the foot. You can have a little bit more knee definition. What I would do too for this, if we're using this pose and we're at the hip section, you might go from using the same tactic, like building off of what you've practiced on 1 minute and 30 seconds, using the same tactic of doing like the front to back leg template, front to back leg gesture. You can start off with that in your 2 minute and then slowly add in more construction. Start adding in a little bit of knee, building out the full shape, and then even adding in contour lines to try to fully flesh out this shape of the leg. All right, and then you can even add in more of the pelvis and all of that fun stuff, right? Because you have 2 minutes, you have a lot more time. So like for things like this, you might try to build out the pelvis a little bit more, like trying to find the iliac crest going down to the front of the calf, trying to find where the gestures are. So I'm going to go with a front to front gesture for the leg, and then here I can just add in little tiny details, but a front to front feels smooth. And then think about it and then try to add in your contour lines so that way things feel structurally sound. All of these are building up, right? This is your simple, just focusing on like the lines and the gesture, where you're back and forth, your front to backs, your side to sides. And then here you're starting to add in a little bit better proportions, a little bit better construction, and trying to add in more like making the figures feel more solid because you have more time. And then once you're in on the good old 5-minute gestures, that's when you have more time and you have more freedom. So for something like this, we can look at them one at a time. I start them all essentially the same way, except I just spend more time on each step. So like if this was going to be a 1-minute gesture, I would essentially start it the same way by trying to find the main curves of the body like this. But because I have more time now, I'm able to slowly try to map out where everything goes, and starting light, finding the full body like this, and then going through for a second pass, and trying to build out and add more detail to it, trying to find the construction lines of everything. You want to think of drawing as going through things as in passes, right? You're looking at it first as a gesture, and then you start adding in more form, and then you can start adding in more anatomy, and then after that you can add in your shadow mapping and all of that fun stuff, right? You don't want to be thinking about everything in every single step. You just want to sort of be like, all right, now I'm going to go through this again and focus on adding this or adding that. And the same thing for this one too. I think for 5-minute gestures too, don't worry about drawing out the entire pose. I would just focus on specific parts. So like in this case, I was focusing on my my proportions and trying to keep things aligned and everything, and while also capturing the angles and trying to keep the gesture alive. But then after that, I just kind of went in and just focused on specific areas, like here's an area, even the face, adding in the details of the face, adding in the butt area here, and you can see the great trochanter, the gluteus medius, right, gluteus maximus going down to the tensor fascia latae, all of that fun stuff. Or the iliotibial band over here, tensor fascia latae is over here, right? You can start to bring in a little bit more details in specific parts, whatever interests you. Well, that's when you get into 5-minute territory. But overall, though, with gesture, you want to keep in mind the very, very beginning basics, trying to find that full pose, the balance of everything. And then you can slowly go through with your passes and start adding in the bonus details and the smaller anatomy, while the whole time building on the fundamentals that you've learned of form and gesture and design. This is why you want to take things slow in the beginning so that you learn how different parts of the body are designed in gesture. So that's the different timelines. The more you practice, the faster you'll get.